showed me why. Instead of asking why, start asking why not. Time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're lying in the sun. Bit by bit, the older that we get, the faster it tick, 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 ticks. Time flies. Whoa, whoa, time flies.
Good afternoon. Hey, it's Lyndall Fraker again here with Marshfield Old School Times on the last day of May 2025. And we are honored today to have two very special friends with us today, John and Marty Foglesong. Foglesongs, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Glad
you.
to be here with you.
And Marty, you're a two-timer now.
Yes.
So you were on with us back in the winter when we had Dr. Newcomb, and they talked about the Marshfield Public School Foundation. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute as well. Pretty nice day out there after a wet week. We finally got some sunshine, and everybody's hopefully getting out and enjoying it. And we're happy to be with you again and bring the Foglesongs. They've got a pretty unique story, I think, as far as a lifetime of community service, serving the community. Tremendous business that they've built over the last, hate to say this, half a century. Would that be close?
That's
John?
exactly right. 51 years.
And of course their most proud and shining achievement, their son Mark and those two grandsons of theirs. So we'll hear a little bit more about that as well. So folks, what we like to do is we like to start at the beginning. And our good friend Gary Price started this, and so I try to mention it every week because it's his little meme that he said. He discovered America in such and such year. So we'll start, Marty, with you. When did you discover America? When did it all start for you?
1946.
There you go. That's how we started. 1946. So tell us a little bit about your family and growing up around Marshfield, and just kind of start there, if you would.
Well, I grew up with a twin sister and an older brother, and had a wonderful childhood. Of course, went to high school and graduated, and went on to Drury and graduated, got married, moved to Kansas City. Then we moved to Kearney, Nebraska, and then Hutchinson, Kansas, and back to Marshfield. But my growing up years were wonderful in every way. School was good, and we knew everybody, and
All 12 years in this building?
Yes.
That's what I was
yes.
thinking.
Yes.
Yeah. And tell us about your folks.
Well, my father was in what they call the abstract business, the title business, and my mother taught school for a while, but then was at home with us and began giving piano lessons. Gave many piano lessons, and our Saturday she would be up and giving a lesson at 8 o'clock, when about the time maybe we would get up. But we did have responsibilities, and she would give maybe, 12, 15 lessons that day. And our biggest treat was to go to the Dairy Princess that night because she was too tired to cook.
Yeah, well, of course.
So that was a big treat.
Always a big treat.
But a good childhood and teenage years in Marshfield.
Yes, that's great. Well, of course, your twin sister, Jane Henson, married to Tom, and again, another great couple. Maybe we can get them to come on one of these days, and you guys can share stories as well, but or they can, growing up in Marshfield. So, your dad, I like to mention this because I was fortunate enough to be a state representative. Your dad was a state representative here for Webster County back in, I think, the early 30s.
He was, I think, really proud of that and happy with that. And when he and my mother got married, he was still in the legislature, and she was quite a bit younger than he was, and she was really excited and happy to go live up there during the time he was there. And I will tell this story, and I don't think Mother or Daddy would mind. They went to a very nice dinner one night, and my mother had been a school teacher before that. But at that time, when you got married, you had to quit teaching. And but anyway, they were married and they went to this formal dinner, and one of the servers came around and was serving and said, "Well, hello, Miss Jackson." And it happened to be one of the students that she had
Oh.
in school a few years back. And so she tells that with a laugh and hoping that other people around either didn't hear or understood.
That's kind of neat. Your dad was he had the abstract company, and then also you guys, he raised cattle too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He did.
Hereford cattle and.
Jane and I each had a cow, and my brother had a horse. And we enjoyed all that. Jane and I liked to go with him to feed the cows. And when we were even younger, he milked cows too. So we got to experience that. He always said every time tuition came up at Drury, he'd sell a cow. Maybe Dr. Tommy would buy a cow.
Might pay for a week or two.
I don't know that it completely paid for it, but I guess it did help them.
Back then. And of course, the Fayenne Prairie, the land basically west of the spur was pretty much all your dad or his brother's land, correct? I mean,
yes. The judge bought all of that.
Yes. And I'd love to hear more about that, and whatever you would like to share on that. I know you're getting a little deeper back into history, but I think people would find that interesting. But the interstate wasn't there, and so it was all of that land from the spur west, where Walmart is, and then on south to the tracks, to the railroad tracks.
And even I can remember it was hard to think that the interstate was going to divide our land.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly a happy thought
I bet it was.
for everybody, but think what it has done for this area.
The subdivision over there where you all live, and you all developed later, and all of that. Webco Manor, I guess, would have been on part of that land. So
sure,
amazing progress made on the farm that you talked about that they bought and owned. The other thing that I always find it interesting at the Capitol, when people would come from Marshfield, I always try to make a point to point out the picture. There's a picture of every class that have served up there, and I always try to point out your dad's picture. And some of the folks find that interesting. But imagine serving in the state legislature or the U.S. Congress during the Depression. Imagine what it would have been like.
Yeah.
And World War II was not quite there yet, but World War I had ended, and then the Depression hit, and those would have had to have been turbulent times. And how in the world, some of the votes that they would have taken that affected people, and people were depending on the government to survive, and so it would have been a challenging time. We talk about budgets today, but can you imagine, what it would have been like?
I wish that we had talked a little more about that with him. I know they enjoyed the time that they were there, and I guess my dad was there even before my mother was, but he was a Democrat, and it was very hard to get elected as a Democrat, but I am proud that he hopefully did good work for our county, and people respected him and then voted for him.
I'm sure he did. Now, your mother, as you mentioned, was a Jackson, of course, of the Joe Jackson family and all of that, the builders that have been around forever. Any other thing you want to mention about her? I know she played the organ in the church for how many years? 70 or something like that.
It was something unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yes, and they had a nice farm, and though the children were expected to work, but she got to come in to town, let's say, and stay in a home and go to high school here. They really respected her having good piano lessons with teachers in Springfield, and it was hard to get to Springfield. But they had her come in and board in a high school so that she could get a good education, graduated at 16, and went on to what was then SMS, and got her teaching degree, took piano lessons. She talked a lot about the teachers that she had up there, and they lived a long time, and like she did, and I heard quite a bit about them. But they did a lot of good things. My grandfather built the original Timber Ridge Church, and many of our homes that we live in, that we grew up in,
So now Julian Jackson, Joe's dad, and your mother were brother and sister.
Correct.
Now, what was Mr. Jackson? What was their father's name? Your grandfather? He was
Joe Jackson also.
Joe Jackson also. Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
so he began that building business, and then Julian, and then Joe. So
yes.
3 generations, and then of course,
yes,
young Joe ended up. He's still in construction too. But okay, so that a lot of the schools, the buildings several buildings in the Marshfield campus were built by Julian and
yes.
Joe, and
yes,
so quite a tradition there.
Yes, and my grandfather went out to help rebuild. I don't know what year this was. Lyndall probably knows. San Francisco, when they had a huge fire out there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know whether it was 19.
I learn something every time.
8 or I don't know when it was, but it was. But he left his family and went out there to help to do that. So, there is a long history of construction work.
Interesting. Well, John, let's hear a little bit about you. You're from another state, right?
Well, yes, Lyndall. I grew up in Enid, Oklahoma, and my story is I came to the Ozarks when I was 18 to go to college, and fell in love with the Ozarks and a girl from the Ozarks, and been here most of my life, and really enjoy it. It's a good place to live. It's good people. It's a good place to have a family, and it's a good place to work.
That's always good to hear. Those of us from here, kind of makes us puff up a little bit. You're right. We agree with you. So you graduated from Enid what year?
I graduated from high school in Enid, Oklahoma in 1963.
63, and Marty, you were 64 here
Correct.
at this building. I knew that. And then went on to college at Drury.
Yes.
And that's where you met Marty, right?
Yes. My second year, I found the prettiest girl on campus, and never did turn loose of her.
Yeah. So did your grades get better after you met Marty? Because that first year, I suspect, was a little bit.
You could, if my father were alive, you could. He would tell you that exactly happened. I had more fun my first year, and less education, and he told me I could always go back and work construction after my first year, and so I saw the light and studied more.
I'm sure Marty helped you a little bit.
Well, it was incentive.
Yeah, that's right.
She always made real good grades. She was a straight A student.
I can see that. I'm sure of that. Tell us a little bit about your folks growing up in Enid.
Yeah, my folks. My father grew up on a farm. They were sharecroppers, and my mother's family grew up in the oil fields. Her father worked in the oil fields. Uh-huh. And so my father had a 10th grade education, and my mother graduated high school. And but my folks had a business, and a successful business, relatively successful business, and raised 3 boys, and we all went different directions.
Yeah. Still, your brother's still with us?
Yes,
yeah?
Yes, they're both with us.
All 3 graduated from Drury.
Yes, we did. Okay. We all graduated from Drury.
Yeah. Was there ties to Drury with your dad or your family?
Yes. I had a cousin. His name was Jim Buckles, and he was a Drury graduate, and he was business manager at Drury. And he asked me when I was in high school, where do you want to go to college? And I said, I don't want to go to OU or OSU. He said, why don't you go to Drury? And I did.
Yeah. So you ended up in Drury about 64 through 67 or something
That's
like that?
correct.
So tell us a little bit about, and both of you, about Drury in those days. Now, I don't know if there's got to be some great Springfield stories. Was Johnny Morse at Drury then?
Johnny Morse was
When I was.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a freshman my senior year, and
Okay.
I didn't know him.
Okay.
The O'Reillys all went there, and Larry O'Reilly was a year behind me.
My
so,
class.
there were some successful people that went there.
Yeah.
Some of us drag it down, but
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
We had a great experience at Drury.
Yeah,
we
I bet
we
you did.
have to admit that.
Were the times there in the 60s, with Vietnam going on, kind of the stuff that happened nationwide with, I guess you might say, some of the civil rights stuff, the war protesting, did that trickle down into Springfield in those days?
a
Or
little bit.
While I was there, it may have Marty's last year. I don't think it hit the middle of the country. And really, I remember my senior year, somebody said something about Vietnam, and of course I was clueless, and they said, "What's that?" And then we realized that we could get drafted as soon as we graduated.
Wow.
And so,
yeah,
but we didn't see. You don't remember seeing.
I had a little bit more
Yeah.
my last
by,
year.
it was by
and
68.
yes,
when it really,
yes, and saw some
Yeah.
things that happened in Springfield, and the campus
Mm-hmm.
aware at least a lot more of it. And John Dillon went to school with us,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and was their group kind of started singing some things that
Ozark
were
Mountain
kind of
Daredevils, uh-huh.
that kind of they're just a little bit of protesting
Right,
coming up
right.
too, but-
Anti-establishment.
Yes,
and
yes,
stuff like that.
yes.
I bet it was a different time. I mean, fun, but yet turbulent
Yes.
in some ways. By the time
The later
60s.
years, but-
Yeah, absolutely. So you come back. You get married pretty soon after graduation.
After I
you
graduated.
and
We lived in Kansas City,
Yeah, you
and
made
then
a little trip. Tell us about those other towns for a minute. And
Well, we really enjoyed Kansas City. We had a nice apartment, and
worked for Sears.
I worked for
Sears,
Sears. I was a management trainee for Sears, kind of like Lyndall. Weren't you a management trainee for Walmart?
I was.
So when neither one of us followed that, we decided to make a change.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we enjoyed that, and then we moved to Kearney, Nebraska. And at that time, I got a bird dog from Joe Jackson because I was going to pheasant hunt while I was up there,
But
and
you
I
did.
did that.
There were still a lot of birds probably. Up there.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, there were.
Yeah.
And then we were in Hutchinson, Kansas, and Marty was visiting her folks, and she called me on the real phone.
Yeah.
we had real we used
Had a
real
wire,
phones
actually had a
then.
wire.
Yeah, it had a wire to it, and and an operator, and she called me and said that her family's they were thinking about her dad's business partners were thinking about selling the business, and I said, well, tell them not to sell. I'll be down there this weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's the beginning.
Yeah.
We moved down here, and
What year would that have been?
that was 1973.
73. Okay.
And Lyndall, I'll tell you one thing about it. It was the abstract business then,
Right.
and when I was young, I would follow my father. He had a typewriter company, and he was out in Woodward, Oklahoma, and we went in this building that was dark on the inside, that had green eye shades. And when I came out, I said, "Daddy, what is that?" He said, "That's an abstract company." And right then I knew that I didn't want to have an abstract company and live in a small town where you never want to say never, and it's worked real well for our family.
But you brightened it up a little bit. You got better lighting, right?
Yeah, yes, we got better lighting. Yes, we did.
A
Yes, we
little
did.
remodeling
Yeah,
and
I see
cleaning
pretty
up.
nice people working in there.
Yes,
Oh,
it did.
man.
Had some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's a good story. So you guys will actually be next year be what? 55 years, is that right?
It's 51 years this year.
51 this year. Okay, yeah.
51 this
That's right,
year.
yeah.
Well, it was so it would be 52 this year.
Yeah, 52. So unbelievable, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Really,
Yes, it's been a good journey.
Yeah. So you got started, you got the business going, and then you had a son.
Yes, we did.
Talk a little bit about him.
Well, you tell about him,
Yeah.
Marty.
Well, we were just thrilled when we found out we were having him, and just
And
just
that
a
was a little
wonderful.
bit later, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, yes. For then, it was
yeah.
quite a bit later, and just grew up with able to have a lot of good times and travel with him, and he was an easy child, I would say, and we just enjoyed doing the things that he did, that he was interested in. He did all the music things and played football, I think, till he was sophomore, and did the plays and all that. So we just learned to ski. This is a big thing with all of us. We've skied almost every year that he's been alive.
Right?
So
Broke a bone or two along the way.
well, a few bones, have hurt a knee, and Mark had a nice break. But anyway, it's been a joy.
Yeah, he's a fine guy. He really is. He's just a nice, very good, nice person.
Good person, acts much like my dad in so many ways.
Yeah.
We've noticed.
And he's got your dad's old truck.
Oh, he sure does.
Seen that around town. Yeah, that's neat. So after you got the business, I wanted to hear a little bit, John, about the business and how it's changed. How we went. Explain a little bit about a lot of. And again, what we do is we're documenting history. Someday, 3 or 4 generations from now, people could pull this up and learn about their great grandparents or whatever, and that's what we're trying to do. But just make sure that we're carrying on the traditions of our community and the culture that we have here and how important it is. But talk a little bit about that business and how you went from abstracts to title insurance, and just kind of give us a brief history of that.
Well, Lyndall,
and why it happened. Why?
Yes, in the originally there were abstracts, and that we would type up abstracts and we would hand them to lawyers. Lawyers would read them, give an opinion, and the closings were either handled by the lawyers, or it was handled by the realtors, or if it was a refi, the bankers. And then soon after that, title insurance came along, and that eliminated the abstract. The title company then examined the title. We would examine all the deeds from back, what I say, from Adam and Eve to today. And
I guess the actuality around here would have been probably the railroads, right? I mean,
yes, it would. From the time they got the government turned loose of the property to the current time, and we would examine it to see who the current owner was, if there were any liens or judgments, and make sure they had access to the property, whether there was a good road, a deeded road that they had the ability to use. And then we would guarantee that. And then soon we started using computers, and then we used big old computers that would use floppy disks, and then we evolved into we built a larger building so that we do closings. For probably the last 40 years we did closings, and then of course it's all computerized, but it's like every other business. It's evolved, and it's how we do it today.
Right.
And it takes young people that understand this to make everything work.
Right. So the old abstract, which had been there all, like you said, since the beginning of documentation on property. I mean, it was kind of if you think about it, pretty serious business to make sure that everything was there and proper and right, and you were kind of at the mercy of the people that had done it before and following up, succession, and you could sure get somebody's property in trouble if there were things that showed up that weren't caught, I guess. Or,
yes, that's right. But also part of our job now is to help them repair it. If there is an issue, how do you fix it? And how do you make it right? So that the buyer knows that they have good title, and everything's taken care of.
And the title insurance helped that to make that happen, right?
Yes,
Because
it did. Yes,
The
it did.
title companies are basically guaranteeing that it's going to be okay. And
Yes,
everybody's
yes.
protected. So
Yes.
probably made things better for you as far as responsibility. And
Yes,
stuff like
yes.
that.
And, it's a little more difficult job, but everything. That's the way we see that everything's right, and
Yeah.
then of course the title insurer guarantees it.
Yeah. You have 2 offices, or
Yes, we have 2 offices. We had 3 at one time, but we consolidated the Mountain Grove office into the Ava office.
Yeah.
So we have, but we have purchased 2 other title companies in our tenure.
yeah. I don't know how many transactions. I don't want to divulge your business, but I can't imagine that there's multiple hundreds of transactions a year, I guess.
Oh, it'd probably be 1,000
Yeah, that's
transactions
what I
a
was
year.
curious. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's just a lot of property, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes,
and
it is.
you look at a plat map from the turn of the century last year, the last century, and you see all these big chunks of land, and now you look at a plat map and they can't even write on them. They're so small, you can't even. It's just amazing. Over 100 years, I guess.
We this community, just not for the title business, but this community has been blessed by our access to the Springfield. We're part of the Springfield metropolitan area, and so there's a lot of growth in our community. Not only homes, but businesses and in industry, and the community has done well. Not just the title business, but
Yeah.
It's helped the industry,
It has.
but it's good for the community.
And we see that migration with Stratford now,
Yes.
going up and down 44,
Yes.
and what's going on there, the housing in Stratford, the housing in Rogersville. We see that migration coming east, and whether you look at it as our best days are ahead or whatever, but there's definitely our bigger growth days are ahead, I believe.
With Lyndall, with the new interchange at the 103 mile marker, that really will open it up for quite a bit of housing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there'll be development. There'll be development there,
I think so too.
and as time goes on, it enlarges the footprint of the city, the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys have done, your subdivision over there in the Fian addition, and
Mm-hmm.
you've done quite a bit of developing yourselves. The Walmart property would have been some of your family's land and your all's land then later, and so been involved in a lot of that development of our community.
Well, Marty's mother was involved with a lot of it.
Yeah.
She was a premier developer.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mrs. Fian did that.
Probably a pretty shrewd businesswoman, I'm sure.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was. I learned a lot from her.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
Something else that you did in the time you've had the title company that was really a big deal, and a lot of people either have forgotten it or didn't know about it, and that was the platting, the mapping
Yes.
part that you back in was it at the 80s maybe or the 90s when we had a big
Yes, it was. It
push
was.
to get
80,
everything replatted.
84,
and
85.
Explain that a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, I think there was a state mandate it started for the assessor to find out what really each person owned, and so they wanted maps made of every parcel in each county in the state of Missouri, and so we got in the mapping business.
Did this coordinate with like GPS and GIS, or was it before that?
It was
kind of
before that.
Yeah.
It was before that. GIS came soon after
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
But these were all pen and ink on Mylar at that time. Within 5 years, GIS was starting, or GIS was starting about that time on the coast.
Yeah.
But we didn't have it here. And so we mapped several counties in southwest Missouri. We started with Webster County, and then we did Dallas County, and then we did Stone County, and we did McDonald County.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Also.
and
Also.
and so
Kansas.
we did a lot of their mapping.
So each county was responsible to have this redone per like state,
Just a second,
state statute.
just a second, Lyndall.
Yeah.
I have made the mistake of leaving my phone on.
Oh, I didn't even hear it.
Well, good. It's ringing in my hearing aids.
Oh, I see.
That's one of the modern future. So you, if I look funny on this,
That's why this is very laid back, casual deal.
yes, it is.
Yeah,
So, but
if you need to go to the bathroom, help yourself.
yeah,
Sometimes
that's
I
right.
have to.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
get
That's
that,
right.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, it was an interesting business.
I bet it was.
It was a time when there's times when I think it was a time when the interest rate was at 21%.
Yeah. Wow.
And so the transaction business was slow, and so that was good for
Filled in your
for
business,
our company.
So each county, like mandated by law or statute or whatever, to have this done. And
Yes,
then
he
they
did.
would have to send bids, like you bid on it.
Yes,
You
yes, we
okay.
did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And we were lucky to be successful in several counties.
And you did some in Kansas.
Well, we went on to Kansas, and we did 5 counties in
Did you?
southwest Kansas afterwards.
Was this 10-year run or
It was about a 5-year
about
run.
5? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Worked hard.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell me, this is a little bit maybe away from your part of your business, but so then it wasn't too many years after that I know, wasn't there remonumentation, I guess if that's the right word, of surveys and so forth? I mean, they had to put, I know, didn't Dennis Amsinger work a lot on new monument?
I think as time went on,
Yeah.
that was just a requirement.
Yeah.
People were more concerned about their fence lines
Yeah.
and
after computers, after we got the computerization.
Yes. But Dennis Amsinger did a good job,
Yes,
and of course, each succeeding surveyor had more sophisticated equipment available.
Right.
They didn't just pull chains,
Yeah.
and so they had sophisticated equipment that they
Sure.
could use, and everything became much more modern. And then later than that, we came in with the GIS and Geographic Information Systems, what that stands for, and all the counties now have a GIS system, and so all the maps are on a computer, and the state of Missouri for sure, those maps are available to the public. You can go on to the assessor's site and you can look up any piece of property you want to. You can see the ownership, and you can see how many acres it is. And
Used it quite a bit, of course. A lot of people do.
Yes,
And
yes,
realtors
yeah.
and so forth.
yeah,
Yeah, it's been interesting and an evolving and changing business. I'm sure you.
Yes.
You talk about the younger generation or whatever, people understanding it. I mean, you've had to learn all the time new techniques.
yes, that's right. And
business.
it's good to have younger people come into the business.
Yeah.
And also it's gotten sophisticated enough. It's a little more interesting to younger people
Yeah.
because it's all computerized and
Sure.
And let me say, the people that have worked with us over the years have just been wonderful people, good people, smart people, and care about what they do, their work, and it's been a joy to have. I was thinking when he started that, we were above the Carrie Proctor building. He was hiring these young people to do all this and get this going because, as he said, that rates were up 21%,
Yeah.
and we were looking to find out how to do a little bit
Diversify,
more,
yeah.
do a little bit more work. And I want to say one more thing too about our son. He went ahead and went to Drury, graduated, and then he went to law school and is a lawyer, and it is now the owner of our business. But always helpful to have a lawyer involved
Absolutely.
in
Yeah. I was
in
getting
that
ready to say,
business.
Mark came along and you
Yes.
came into the business, and what a what a great fit, and what a joy to have him step in and,
Sure.
and carry on. And I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
You know, one other thing I want to say is that we've had great people we worked with.
Yes.
Our employees. When I first took the business over, Cleo Kruger was there.
Yeah.
And she kind of had to adopt me and show me what to do because
Yeah.
I was clueless. And as we've evolved, we've had a lot of people that have people that have been with us for 30 years. Good, loyal people, and I won't name names because I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave anyone out.
Yeah.
But people that and just have been dedicated to the business and take care of our clients and
like each other
Yeah.
and support
That's
each
amazing.
other.
It really is amazing.
it's
And
become a
you're-
family.
It has, and when you walk into D.D. Hamilton, everybody is so friendly and so warm, and they may be the furthest employee back there, and you're going to get a wave and a hi, Lyndall, or whatever.
Hope
and
so, yeah.
Can I get you a water? I may just be in there to use a restroom or something, or say hi to John. Can I get you a water? And candy on the dish on the counter and things like that. It's just a real pleasure, and that's had to make a difference in your business. And that tone had to be set by you two 50 years ago, and maybe before that by your dad.
But also we just were lucky enough to get people to join our business with us and be part of our business and care about it, and of course they know everybody in the community, and I think everyone in the community knows them, and so that's a real key, the people that you work with.
Just a funny story, I guess.
We like stories. That's what we're here for.
Appropriate. when we first drove over here, we had all of our things from Hutchinson, Kansas, had all of our things in our car and a U-Haul. One of our cars breaks down in Kansas, and we had our bird dog. John just gives the title to the filling station person of that car. We unpack it all, put it all in a little nicer car, plus the dog.
Well, we had a U-Haul. We traded that for a U-Haul trailer.
Well, I thought we had a U-Haul anyway, but
maybe we did.
That was our
I guess
start.
That's right.
That was our start. We
We're going to
rented.
get a bigger trailer.
Yeah.
We rented a little house from
The Brooks.
Mary Ruth Brooks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Bill Brooks, I believe this is the right story. John got all dressed up in his suit for the first day of March and his first day of work, and goes to work. And Bill comes in sometime that week, I guess, and says, "Let me kind of take you around the square and talk to you a little bit." Bill Sims did the same thing.
Yeah.
And Bill said, "Son, you don't need to wear a suit around
right.
here. You better get that suit off pretty quickly." And so we had lots of good help. Stanley and Shirley Kudamilka took us to a Drury ball game. We couldn't afford to eat out. They took us to a cafeteria to eat and to a ball game, and we were really thrilled, really excited. So we have had so many good mentors, good friends, older and our age, that we've met and had such good times and support with in this community.
That's great. I'm so glad you interjected that, because that's what we're here for, is to hear those human interest comments and stories that nobody may have ever heard or whatever. When you mentioned those kind of people, that makes me think, and we talked about this before, you served with a bunch of guys in the volunteer fire department in those early days.
Yes, I did.
And again, lifelong friends. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, at that time was the same time that the funeral homes could no longer be in the ambulance business. So the fire department took over the ambulance business. And so my good friends, Don Cheever and Bill Sims, they became EMTs. I didn't do that. So I drive the ambulance.
Or the fire truck.
Yeah.
But I also drove the fire truck too. But in the ambulance business, I never drove the ambulance for a situation where the patient survived.
Oh no!
It was bad luck.
You don't
Now
have
they
to tell
may,
that, John.
I know, but they may have passed away
Yeah.
6
yeah.
weeks
Wasn't your
later.
fault. Wasn't your fault.
6 weeks later, and then I was at several fires where we saved the well and the foundation.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we have a better fire department right now. And a different subject, Lyndall, in the title business. Your father, Don Fraker, was one of my best customers.
Yeah. Well.
And I think I might be a little bit interesting, but Don was too.
Oh
and,
yes, yeah. Colorful and interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Good
so
tell
we would
stories.
have long visits
I bet.
when we would
Yeah.
when we would interact. Yeah.
Well, those were fun days for me as a teenager. Remembering back to those days and hearing all the stories, some of the same stories, and maybe even a little bit enhanced with my version.
I think they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of his stories, when he was driving the ambulance, I guess, he met Dr. Tommy and Miss Patrick, maybe down towards Niagara. I don't know exactly where it
Yeah.
was. And John and Bill Sims were in the ambulance, I guess, and they go in, and John. Bill and Miss Patrick and Dr. Tommy go help the patient. I don't know if she thinks she was having a baby.
Oh, she had a baby.
Or had a
Okay.
baby. And John said, I'll just stay out here. My job is to take care of the family.
Yeah.
I don't need to go in. I'll just entertain the family.
That patient survived, and of course it was on a farm, and they knew how to deliver calves, and so they had
They'd done a good
they
job.
They had delivered the baby just before we got there.
Yeah.
And Bill Sims, I don't know, he got involved in it. Bill was kind of good at that. No, I stayed out and talked to them about how many cows they had, and everything.
I'd have loved to have been a little mouse on those. In those days.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of those stories with Gary Fraker around and you guys and
That's
Plunkett,
right.
Wayne Plunkett and all Joe Lurvy and
Yes,
Yes,
you've
yes.
seen the picture floating around. It's been on the
Yes.
Facebook anyway of that group. You all I think it was at the Mom's Cafe building. Which is
Yes,
where it was
we
called
had
at one of your dinner. At
We had
dinner
a
or something, annual
Christmas
yeah.
dinner. It
And
was
there's
really
nice picture
fun.
of all those guys. George, just
That's
not-
where it was, and it
not
was
George.
fun, and it was full of
Hargis.
people.
Yeah.
We were young then,
Yeah,
my hair
absolutely.
was dark,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
I was about 2 inches taller.
And
Yeah,
the fire trucks were really hard to drive.
Yeah.
I remember hearing Don and John talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
they were hard to control, but
But
Well, we carried we drove a old milk truck to haul water,
okay.
and it didn't have a slosh thing inside. So if you came down, and it didn't have very good brakes, and we were coming down the hill one time, and Don Cheever was driving, and there was a curve, and it started sloshing, and we almost lost control and just kind of tumbled down the hill. But
Oh my God.
thank goodness we lived through that.
Oh man. Well, we talk about community service. Now that's community service. If you think about it in those days, doing that, taking people's lives in your own hands because it was the right thing to do, and that's
Somebody
amazing.
had to do it.
Somebody had
Yes,
to do
yes.
it, and our community was at that stage in progress or technology or whatever. We came a long ways, I guess, even to that point from the old
probably, yeah.
using a hearse for an ambulance,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
whatever back
Yeah.
in the old days. But yeah, it's amazing, and that's what growing up in a town like Marshfield's all about.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
special place.
It
It
really
really is. Marty and I've talked often that we wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
No, I wouldn't.
We visited a lot of places. We've traveled a lot, but this is home. It's it's in Central America.
Right.
It's a central part of the Middle America, and it's
The culture's just wholesome. I mean,
Yes.
it's more wholesome than other
yes, it
places.
is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And
Great
and
place to
also
raise a
there's
family.
recreational opportunities here.
sure.
There's lakes and there's
Wildlife,
streams
yeah.
and there's
Absolutely.
public land and
That's why everybody's wanting to.
And you
go
wave
there.
at people you don't know,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
that's in us.
That's right. Well, Marty, I want to talk. Let's hear a little bit more about your music. You've been one of the premier piano teachers in our community. And if you really, and I mean this, if you think about it, you could probably name on one hand, maybe two, but the people that have taught thousands of people piano, and you would be one of those, along with your mother. And so, talk a little bit about that, and then the choir.
Well, both of those, besides Mark and my marriage and my family, are my biggest joys. Or the piano students and the and instrumental. I did a little instrumental too. And Lyndall's, both of his boys, right up till the end, took lessons. Barth, his brother, we all know Barth and how really important he is to music in this area.
And some people may not have known that you were his piano teacher.
Yes, and you know, people that they all had special things that I remember about them. I think that, and I'll mention a name so I can think this is right, but I think Sheila Hargis, Marlin was my first student.
Is that right?
I think Sheila was. And I don't know if she could verify that or not. But
she and Barth would be
she
pretty
might
close
not
in age.
know. But
She and Barth would be close in age.
And Barth was, you know, into all the music at church even as a little boy.
Yeah.
But just that was just a joy, and it was kind of a thing where you could do it and still have a family and
And your mother was still teaching then.
oh
when you
yes,
started,
and
too.
she and I, well, we did formal recitals for a while. I don't know whether your children weren't that old, and I don't even know if Barth was, but formal recitals in the Methodist Church or the
old
what I call the old Methodist Church now, and you know, had really tried to teach them some really good music and teach them how things are done the correct way. So the students are just like D. Lewis and all of his students, and of course Mother and hers, and Shirley Van Diglin, and that just been a joy and a way to really get to know some of these young people, not only through their music but their personal lives. And the choirs it's just wonderful.
Yes.
I just really have had so many wonderful opportunities and people that are talk about loyal, devoted, and talented.
Yeah.
Really talented people in the Methodist Church and in many places that appreciate music. And so
it's great that you've been able to continue that even today with members that have been there, you know, 50 years maybe, and like my folks and so forth. It just became such an important part of their life.
Well,
and because of you, because you continued to do it, and as long as you were going to do it, they're going to do it.
Well, your folks would have been at church anyway, but they were nice enough to give up their time on Wednesday and Sunday most of the time to be a part of the choir, which I always tell most of these people that, you know, you should do this because you're capable.
You've been given a talent. You need to use it.
We want to be using it.
But I think the thing that people forget too is, you know, we all think about sports and all that it teaches young people, and it does, no question about it. But yet, not everybody's an athlete. But yet they have ability like Barth, my brother, does. And what you did as part of his life, teaching him not just to play the piano, but when you look back at a lot of these students, whether it's Sheila Marlin or Barth or whoever, it helped to teach them to be good human beings and successful people and good family people. I mean, you're teaching more than just playing the notes.
And music is really a getaway.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times when you're really pretty low, or you've got sadness in your family or worries, you can go to music if you have that kind of appreciation, and hopefully we taught this. And music and a choir, it's like teamwork and anything else.
Right. Right.
it's a team effort.
Yeah. It's amazing, and you're amazing in that aspect for sure, and everybody
Thank
around you knows that. And I did want to mention, believe it or not, there's 4 minutes until 2 o'clock. See how fast this goes?
Yes,
Isn't
it
fun?
does.
Isn't
Yes, it
fun?
is. It's fun, isn't
But
it?
I did want to mention that when I sent this invitation out Thursday for today's podcast, as I always do, you guys probably had more likes than about anybody that we've sent one out for. I mean, and comments, really nice comments. Two of the greatest people I know, or just so happy that you're having them on. Can't wait to hear. So that says something. That's a legacy that you've accomplished in this community together as a couple, and with Mark. And I just think part of what I try to do here is to document history, but it's also to thank people for what they've done to serve community, family, the nation, our state, whatever it might be. And been fortunate to have great people, great guests, people that have contributed to society, not taken from society. And you guys are right there at the top of the list. And
We appreciate what you're doing, Lyndall, what you've done here in this building, what you're doing with this. That's important to us, and it's going to be important down the line. And in Lyndall's wife's case, Melanie, and in my case, I've had so much support from so many different people for health issues, and that's just what this community and friends and
important.
people do. That's what we appreciate it
and
so
hopefully
much.
this will help teach generations after us, because the culture that we've all known, grew up with, may not be as strong as it used to be. And if we can continue to pass that on and show people, hey, you can be rewarded in life, not just financially, but in other ways.
Yes.
And that's what we want to try to do with this. And
Yes.
I don't know, that's just my way of giving back a little bit, because certainly what we're doing here with this campus is a labor of love. It's certainly not for financial reward, as you all know.
But
if we can keep things alive and blend the past, it'll help to shape the future, and I think that's what we want to try to do. But it takes people like you all, and all of our families to carry on those traditions.
and generations back and generations
exactly,
forward.
Exactly. And someday Mark Foglesong maybe will be sitting here talking about his life, and
Landon
his kids
Fraker.
will be running the community, and exactly, and that's what we want to try to do. Carry that on.
Well, Lyndall, you've done a lot too. I mean, you're always interested in the community. You've
And our
represented
state,
us at
yes.
the state level.
It's been an honor.
And
Yes, it's been an honor.
and you're just very creative, and you can just you can make things work that people thought would never happen.
And handles things
I'm
so
foolish enough to try, I guess.
handles things so well. He's on our public school
Yeah, we
foundation
didn't
and
touch
does
on
a
that.
wonderful job, and always finds the positive way. Well, maybe it doesn't look like, but yeah, I think we can do this. And I really like being around people that are like that.
I do too. Marty is the last founding member of the Marshfield Public School Foundation, which was founded in 1994. So it's 31 years old this year. And then I'm the second longest term, believe it or not. I came on in 97. But we had great people around us, great mentors, people that we learned from, and we miss them. But that organization is something, again, I'm proud to be a part of it.
too.
I know you are, and we feel like we're doing a lot to help the communities. Specifically, though, just this past year, there was a new scholarship or a new fund set up by John and Marty to help teachers with funding special projects that they may be doing in their school. And we want to make sure everybody understands this is an endowment. It's not just a one-time fund. But this year, I think we gave $5,000 worth of teachers grants at the teachers meeting here the other day. They apply for them through an application to the school foundation, which you can catch all that online. And then the foundation board with the obviously the oversight of the Foglesongs. We administer those grants, but it's a fund that you all set up, and we appreciate that. And again, another way of giving back, and it's those kinds of things should be recognized and should be appreciated, and people should know about them. So.
Well, the schools have our children for many years and for long days, and we want the teachers and the children to have everything they need if possible.
Well, the schools have been good to you all.
Yeah,
It's been
sure
good. They've been good to my family.
Mm-hmm.
And people can say what they want to, but our country was built upon the public school system. That doesn't mean that there's not places that need some attention.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we have great teachers here in Marshfield and
Yes,
in the Ozarks, and we need to take care of those teachers, and that's one way of helping was with your grant program. So I guess we're out of time. Our producer, Logan Fraker's back. So anything, final words, folks?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you, Lyndall, and thank you, Logan.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Marshfield.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Marshfield.
Thanks for coming today, and we'll see you again hopefully maybe next week. Sometimes I have to have a break, but like mowing my yard, which, by the way, it needs it really bad today. But we'll see you hopefully in next week, or if not, real soon, and we'll have some more exciting guests. Thank you all for joining.